Hi friends, thanks for joining us. In this video, we're going to be talking about 6 things that you need to do in order to prepare for a spousal sponsorship interview. If you are in the process of sponsoring a spouse or being sponsored as a spouse to a Canadian, there are some things that you need to do to prepare for that interview which you will be having with the Canadian Immigration Authority. So please stay with us. We'll have much more on this after the break. And as always, remember to like this video so others may see more videos like this. Subscribe to our channel so you can get more videos like this. And check us out on our website at go.gooselaw.com. I'll be right back. Welcome back. My name is Donovan Francis and I'm a Canadian immigration lawyer, and I help skilled workers who are inside Canada and those who are outside Canada to become Canadian permanent residents without having to deal with all of the complexities that are part of that process. Now, if you are in the process of being sponsored to become a Canadian permanent resident by your partner, whether it be by your married partner, by your common law partner, or by your conjugal partner, there are some things that you need to bear in mind as it pertains to the spousal sponsorship interview. Now, generally speaking, an interview might not always be necessary, but it is likely that an officer is not fully convinced that the application about the application that you submitted, the sponsorship application, the officer may have questions, and stemming from those questions, the officer will likely invite you to be part of an interview. Now, the person who is typically invited to these interviews is typically the person being sponsored. Okay, that's a person who is normally invited to these interviews. However, though unlikely, it is possible that the Canadian who is doing the sponsoring may on occasions also be invited to sit in on an interview, albeit separately in separate rooms, but that also is a possibility. And so if you are being invited to an interview, it means that there are likely some outstanding issues that you may need to address. There are likely some outstanding questions or some outstanding answers that the officer needs. And so that's why you're likely going to be invited to an interview. And so we want to share with you 6 things that you need to do. So that's 6 things that you need to do. And this isn't an exhaustive list, but it gives you an idea of some of the things you need to do in order to prepare for this interview. So firstly, you want to review the application that was actually submitted. Yes, you would have been the one who might have put it together, or your representative might have put it together for you, and the information you included might have been factual. But you want to have a look over the application. Remember, these applications take a while to be processed, and you might have filed your application maybe many months ago, and chances are you might not recall all of the information that you'd have included in that application. So you want to refresh your memory. And the way you do that is by reviewing the very application that you had submitted to ensure that you have reacquainted yourself with the information that you'd have included, so that on the day of the interview, you do not end up providing conflicting information, okay? So number 1, you want to review the information to make sure that you're adequately up to date with everything that you included in your initial application. Number 2, you have to prepare yourself to be truthful when you're participating in this interview. It's critical that you not be found to have to be deliberately providing misinformation, because that potentially could lead to you being found to be misrepresenting, which has its own consequences. You know, it could lead to your application being refused and to you being banned from applying to return to Canada. So you want to be truthful when in your dealings and your responses to the officer to safeguard against any possibility of you being found to have misrepresented. All right, so telling the truth is going to be important. you want to check so you would have included, especially for persons who are living together, you'd have included an address, a home address, a mailing address for yourselves in the application. So you want to check to ensure that all of your supporting documentation also bears that address. And if you've changed addresses since the last time you filed your application, then you want to make sure that you turn up at the interview with the supporting documentation to show that you've changed address and that you both still live at the same address. Remember that ultimately why all of this is important is that the officer will want to ensure that your relationship is genuine. All right. And so if you are married partners, for instance, then the officer will want to know that you're actually living together, and that you've not just merely gone through the process of getting married purely for immigration purposes, because if you did, then that would make that an illegal act, and it would render the application void. Right? So the officer wants to confirm that your marriage or your relationship is genuine, and that is why it's important for you to provide these types of documentation. And so you want to check the address information to ensure that there's consistency across the information you're going to be providing. So address match, that's going to be important. That's point number 3. The third thing is that you want to take along any updated documents that you have. Now, at the time you filed the application, you would have included certain supporting documentation, but things would have changed over the period of time that you would have been waiting. And so any changes, significant changes that would be material to the application, you want to ensure that you have supporting documentation. So if you had a child, for instance, you want to make the officer aware of that. You want to take a copy of the kid's birth certificate and so on and so forth. Your bank statements, if there have been any changes there, you want to take a copy of that along with you as well. So number 4, it's important to take copies of updated documents with you to that interview when you go to that interview. The 5th thing is that you need to be prepared to talk about your partner, talk about your spouse, talk about the relationship. Be prepared to talk about how the relationship developed and how it evolved over time. Be prepared to respond to questions that for some persons may be uncomfortable, questions specific to your relationship that an officer may ask in order to ascertain whether or not the relationship is genuine. If an officer might want to know about how you and your partner met, an officer may want to know about when you got married, if you're married, when you first started dating, and you might need to address those concerns. If you live together, an officer might ask questions about who prepared breakfast this morning, or who was the last person to go to bed last night. All of these questions, which are intended just to help the officer determine whether or not your application is genuine, and whether or not your relationship is genuine, and whether or not the application should be approved. The 6th tip, the 6th point that I'd like you to bear in mind is that as you prepare for this interview, you should try to prepare yourself to be calm during the interview. That's important. You want to be calm, you want to be collected, you want to have all of your thoughts about you so that you are able to respond to the officer's questions in a manner that's going to be supportive of your application. So being calm is critical to the success of that interview. So I trust you found value from this, and as always, remember to subscribe to our channel so you can see more videos like this. Like this video so other people will see more videos like this, and check us out on our website at go.gooselaw.com. Thanks for joining. See you again.